The views that you get while hiking the trail are stunning. Every single mountain, you start looking up, 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 and suddenly, boom, a bunch of colors and screams of success hit you straight in the face. One of the best feelings possible. Hi, everyone. My name is Albert. I own a travel agency along with my partner, Monica. We are both ones here on the picture. We have been working together with 57 Hours since 2020. So exactly since when COVID struck. And just imagine us, 2020, it was my first time doing a webinar. I was completely nervous. I was just completely out of my mind just before doing this webinar. Today, 3 years later, this is completely different. I feel like a completely different person. On that time, 57 Hours was small. We were super, super small. And today we're just doing whatever we love the most. That is guiding in this kind of trips, adventure tours, and leading a lot of groups to some of the most remote places in the world. Also, as a company made by guides, we have a very strong focus on outdoor activities such as hiking, mountaineering, winter sports, sailing expeditions, and we are mainly focused on challenging and very remote destinations, as I'm based in Iceland, but we also guide trips in the Faroe Islands with a sailing schooner, as well as in Greenland, in East Greenland, and then in Nepal, we lead these tours along with some partners up in the mountains. And we also focus or specialize on this kind of the beaten path trails or routes. So today we are going to be talking about Nepal. That is one of my favorite hiking locations. We are going to be covering some general information about the country, its culture, and then we will jump a bit into the wonders of the Manaslu Circuit that hopefully you'll be completely fascinated as I am every single time I'm coming back from this region. And we will get a general overview of the day-by-day itinerary before covering logistics and challenges of this trip. We will talk also about the acute mountain sickness, the altitude sickness, that is one of the main worries for people traveling to Nepal. This is Nepal, a country that is nested between giants. So when we are actually talking about these giants, we are not talking just about the mountains, but also because it's nested between China in the north and India in the south. But at the same time, we are talking about these mountains because in Nepal, we have on the Himalayan region, this purple, bluish purple part that we have on top of the country. We have 8 of the 8,000 peaks that are the 14 higher mountains in the world. Just to give you an idea of the size of the country, Nepal is 67 times smaller than the US. And in just 100, if I'm not mistaken, is 148,000 square kilometers. We have like a completely huge mix between jungle in the Terai region, that would be here on the south. Then in the middle, we have medieval cities, we have temples, we have lush forests, bamboo forest, we have jungle. That's what we call the hill region. And then finally, on the top part of the country, the northern part, we have this huge mountain, the alpine terrain, old villages, yak shepherds, temples, monasteries, Buddhist monasteries. And it's a completely mix. It's huge. Actually, this huge difference of regions is the origin of the big Nepalese diversity, because in here we have, as you can see, 125 different ethnicities, 92 alive languages coexisting, that in some countries this would be completely like impossible to have 92 different languages. Even though everyone speaks the same one, then they have different dialects all along the country. I've been traveling to Nepal for almost a decade now. I did the maths this morning and I was impressed. Almost a decade, that is almost like, I can guarantee that I've never met people happier or more friendly anywhere else than in this country. They are humble, they are happy. Well, at the end, Nepal is like the land of the smiling faces, as I have here on the subtitle. It is a place where everyone is super respectful with the foreign visitors. They are very patient. They have an incredible and great sense of humor. I have some of my best friends are Nepali, and that's something that I'm very proud of being able to say when coming to talk about people. They are the essence of Nepal. And definitely this huge mix of cultures, religions in Nepal gives you the country its true soul, let's say it. But also when we are talking about Nepal, we are talking about this mecca of hikers, or one of the best places in the world for going for a stunning or one in a lifetime hike. This country has definitely some of the most known trails, most well-known trails in the world, such as the Everest Base Camp or the Annapurna Circuit, but there are a lot more of popular trails, like, for example, Pun Hill Trail, that is down in hilly region in Pokhara. Then we have Langtang Valley, also northern from Kathmandu. And then as soon as we go to the west or to the east, we start getting far and far away from Kathmandu, and we have like very remote regions. This would be far west, all the way to the other side. We have Kanchenjunga. So all these regions normally are made by these restricted areas where your trip tends to enlarge a lot. So if you normally stay on the popular trails, you normally can keep your trip below 15 days or around 15 days. If you go out of this, then you will need special permits. Well, the time there is going to increase a lot. So actually, those popular trails worse than going to a restricted area. This is something that normally people ask us, because we always like to offer both Annapurna Trail and Manaslu Trail. These popular trails are not worse for being popular, not at all. It's just completely the opposite. They are popular for a reason. And even the Annapurna Circuit has been voted as one of the best long distances in the world. It has a lot of people going there. The views that you get while hiking the trail are stunning, are simply stunning. And yeah, you're going to share the trail with other travelers, but that doesn't mean that the trail is going to be less worth it or that it's going to be horrible. No. Just completely the opposite. Every single trail in Nepal, if it's from 5 days hike to 20, 25, 30 days hike, everything is going to be worth it. Absolutely. We have been guiding Annapurna Circuit since 2017. I mean, I cannot love it enough. I even have one of the villages along the trail is one of my favorite villages in the world. And we have been traveling to Greenland, almost entire Asia. We have been in the US, we have been in Canada, we have been down to South America. This village in the Annapurnas is one of my favorites. At the same time, as soon as you step out of these popular regions, out of these popular trails, as soon as you dare, let's say, the way to go beyond the common trails, you get into a completely different world. Reaching one of these less famous trails will get you closer to less developed areas where definitely locals outnumber the hikers by far. Actually, being less developed means that the road connections are very limited, or there are no roads at all. And it also means that you need a special permit for getting here. The culture of the region, the way of life in most of these places is completely untouched. So that would be the main difference between popular trail and less popular trails. So at one point, after guiding Annapurna for several years, we thought, what if there's something closer to Kathmandu, but as epic and remote as the distant restricted regions? And that's how we fell in love with Manaslu. Manaslu, that is this place that we can see in the picture, is a restricted area, but at the same time is very close to the capital city of Kathmandu. As you can see, it's just here. It's even closer than Annapurna. So actually where Manaslu ends is the beginning of Annapurna Circuit. It is just 200 kilometers away-ish, but just to give you an idea, 200 kilometers, that would be like, time-wise would be something, let's say 1 hour and a half, 2 hours, 2 hours and a half. In here, it could be up to 6 hours. So it's actually a quite long distance. For hiking in this place, since it's quite remote and it's actually part of a restricted area, you need by law a licensed mountain guide and 3 different permits. While in Annapurna, you need 2. In here, you need 3. And it's not very developed. I mean, the first tea houses and the first tourism actually started to appearing around the year 2010. So everything there is quite recent, let's say that way. This is how the trail looks like, about 100 kilometers. That would be around 93 miles, if I'm not mistaken, on foot, where we hike from lush jungles down from Machacola. So we start on lush jungles through alpine forests, and then we go to mountain passes. In total, we have 10 hiking stages with one mountain pass that would be just in between Dharamshala and Bintang. And then this mountain pass that is called Larke Pass, it's going to be over 5,000 meters high. So it's pretty high. When arriving in Nepal, you will need to apply for your visa at the airport. Okay. So unless you can apply for it in the Nepalese country, you need to arrive to the airport and pay on location on cash, on US dollars, on euros, directly on the desk. But if not, if you have a Nepalese embassy in your country, as normally happens on big countries like US, Canada, Australia, UK, then you can just do everything before arriving, and then you can just go straight to the passport control. They will check everything, and then we will be just waiting for you outside. After getting your luggage, we will welcome you, the exit of the airport, and transfer you to the accommodation in Kathmandu. That is actually this one down here. That is called Kathmandu Guest House. Is one of the oldest hotels in Kathmandu. It actually used to be not a palace, but the residence of the old monarchy in Kathmandu. So it's actually super nice place. It's a perfect oasis in the middle of this vibrant district of Tamil. So normally when you get these pictures of Kathmandu, you see like very crowded streets, just full of stores and people gelling on the street, cars coming through. Well, this hotel is just exactly in the middle of that, but you hear nothing from outside. It's like being, as I said, on a completely perfect oasis. So after some time to rest and to get ready on your room, we will walk to our headquarters in Kathmandu, which is basically where our partner guides or partner Nepali guides meet and organize themselves for each trip and expedition. And we will have a briefing here, and there we go. And the welcome dinner with the whole group, with your guides, with the Nepali guides, with everyone. And you will have the chance of actually tasting from the first night the delicious local food. In this case is the famous dal bhat set, or also thali set, that is basically vegetables, lentil soup and rice. And then depending on the place, depending on the season, depending on the vegetables they have, they prepare different stuff along with all this. And then on day 2, you will have time to join us for a city tour around the most famous heritage sites like Pasupatina, Bodhana, the Buddhist temples, the Monkey Temple. And at the same time, while we are going to be doing this, all our permits for going to Manaslu are going to be processed by the authorities. So you do not need to worry about that at all. Okay, so we have you covered there. Day 2 will be the last day. It would be the only day that you are going to have enough time to purchase anything you did not bring from your home country. So we have plenty of stores next to the hotel. So it's actually super easy to get out to one specific that we normally use, that we know that they have very good and quality gear to buy. Just to make sure that I'm mentioning this twice, Kathmandu will be your last opportunity to stock up supplies before leaving towards the hike. So it's definitely now or never. On day 3, we will set out early in the morning in a passenger van. That is this one that we have on the right, for a 200-kilometer drive. As I said before, normally this would be translated as like 2 hours drive, but in Nepal, it's about 6 hours drive. It is a drive along the Kathmandu-Pokhara highway until we make it to Sotikola, and then we will change to the jeeps. We will switch for one main reason, and is that the roads that we have along from Sotikola to Machacola actually are unpaved roads, so it's easier for the cars going if they are jeeps rather than vans. So we normally use like 2-3 cars, 2-3 jeeps, depending on the size of the group, and we normally make it to the first tea house of the trip around dinner time, depending on how the traffic has been for leaving Kathmandu before. Day 3, I would describe it as the day that everyone in the group is nervous about. We live this comfort of Kathmandu in golden light, and everyone is just like excited about what is to come. So we are just living the city, the big city. We are just going out to the mountains And definitely is one of the most exciting days, not only for you guys, but also for the guides, also for us. On day 4, we will wake up and we will have breakfast on our tea house all together, the whole group, including guides. This is going to be a dynamic that we will repeat for the following stages of the trail until we end in Kathmandu again. So after packing, we will continue our journey along the Buri Gandaki River that will lead us to the Tatopani hot springs. So in here, in this stage, actually, the trail is quite exposed and challenging in several places. And we're going to be surrounded by this kind of landscape the whole day. It's basically, as you can see, like made of green tones, high cliffs, glacier-fed rivers that actually there's on the first day, one glacier-fed river that we will need to cross bare feet before reaching the town of Jagat. That is where we will spend the night. It is not this kind of river. It's smaller and it is not that deep, but it's a completely different experience for those traveling in Nepal. Normally, in other trails like Annapurna, Everest, you do not need to cross any river. Actually, there is a bridge nearby, so it is actually possible to avoid crossing the river bare feet. But the thing is that that bridge has got some rusty parts on the last year, so we prefer taking the safest way, that is just taking our shoes off, crossing the river, dry, and continue all the way to Jagat. So on day 5 and 6, we will aim to cover the distance between Jagat and Namrung. We will cross the suspension bridge near the village of Philim. It is pretty famous in this region because of its length. And we will also cross the bamboo forest towards the small villages of this region. In these stages, we will also be able to witness for the first time major towering peaks all around us. And you will get an idea of how isolated this area can be, not for you as a traveler, but for the people living on the region. So actually, you will understand how intense could be living here on the good and on the bad way. But mainly, I can tell you on the good way, completely away from problems, away from troubles. Maybe your biggest problems is, well, I do not have enough rice today, or I do not have water because the pipes are frozen. Most people here, they do not care about if the internet connection is down or anything like that. So it's pretty neat. For these days, basically expect to switch for that kind of subtropical forest to alpine forest. So all the trees that we are going to start seeing, they're going to just start going lower and lower and lower. And then we are going to have fir trees, so pretty big in some regions, but mainly what we are going to see is more common like bushes style, and then some big trees around us. On days 7 and 8, we will start hiking a section that is actually pretty impressive because it's made of this kind of rhododendron and oak forest as we climb high to the valley. Depending on the season, the rhododendron forests are actually blooming. It's just full of red flowers everywhere, and it's impressive. And we will start lowering our pace as we approach to the small villages full of these Buddhist flags or prayer flags that you can see here on the picture on the left. And we will finally enter the high alpine pasture. So it will be actually our first time sharing the trails with the famous yaks that spends their days grazing in all these hills, like this one, this fellow that was very close to the village last time. Normally, they are used by the shepherds for getting many resources, mostly the hair and the milk. Also, if you want to try the yak cheese, probably we're going to have the opportunity of doing that. I totally recommend it. If you like cheese, then yak cheese is a must while traveling through Nepal. And everywhere we look now, we have these monasteries. We might also have the chance of visit a few of them actually, and hopefully interact with the monks and to hear their prayers that are pretty impressive sometimes. Well, you will tell me if you come to a trip, but normally what happens is that we get the whole group into this monastery, and me and Monica, we love this sound, we love this praise so much that we get almost completely in this kind of, I don't know, like mind state or almost asleep, but this kind of mind state that is absolutely fantastic. It relaxes you a lot, and you're just hearing the gong and the drums and the flute, and it's outstanding, literally outstanding. And you're gonna see a lot of these snowy, humongous peaks in every single direction. So if you like photography, actually, I would definitely recommend you bring in your camera, not a heavy one, or even your phone, because you are gonna enjoy a lot. I can definitely warranty, as I said, you're gonna enjoy the golden hour. So it's an impressive sight directly from the tea houses every evening and every morning. On day 9, we are gonna use this day as an acclimation day. So it's like kind of like a resting day. Depending on how the group feels, this day we will aim to reach some of the stunning sights around our tea house. The day starts basically with an early breakfast as every single day. And unlike other days, what we are going to do instead of packing, we are just going to leave everything that is going to be heavy on our backpack. And we are just going to get our backpacks with some water, some food, and then we are going to leave for a hike. And we are going to be hiking the whole day. So actually, it's an active resting day. Our mission for today is going to be to aim to reach Pungenkampa, that it's a monastery that is directly beneath Manaslu. So it's actually in this huge, massive plateau. And then you look up and you see the 8th highest mountain in the world. And it's an amazing place. Or we are going to have the chance of hiking towards Birendra Tal, that is the Lake Birendra, and then to the Manaslu Base Camp. So from where all the expeditions to Manaslu actually start. So normally we can see a lot of tents in here. And actually, you know what they say, hike high, sleep low. So after a hike for the day, we are just gonna go descend all the way down to, and we are gonna just spend the evening at the same tea house where we stayed last night. So there would be day 8 and day 9, we will stay 2 times on the same tea house. This day will be actually perfect for hiking without heavy backpacks. So you can just stretch your muscles again. You can hike with no weight on the back. You can enjoy this jaw-dropping views from all the peaks around you. And probably, if we are lucky, you're going to be able to see the wildlife of this region, including yaks, of course. And then we have marmots and foxes. So it's actually a pretty neat place. On days 10 and 11, we will continue heading up along the valley. Okay, so the idea is actually finishing this part before crossing the mountain pass. And we are going to reach Samdo, that is the highest Tibetan refugee camp in Nepal. So in this point, we are going to be just super close, only 23 kilometers away from the Tibetan border. Once in this cute village, we will feel very small looking around us. Samdo, just to give you an image, a picture of how this place looks like, is just very close to a cliff, and you just stand out from your tea house where we are staying. Then you start looking around, and everything, every single mountain, you start looking up, and it never ever stops. So it's actually an amazing sight. We're gonna be, what we like to say, surrounded by giants. So we are gonna feel truly small. After Samdo, we will only have about 7-ish kilometers left to Dharamsala, and it will be the last day before crossing Larke Pass. So Dharamsala will be kind of our personal base camp from where we will depart the following morning. We will be sleeping below 5,000 meters, but the temperature in here will drop by night. So it will make actually essential those kind of group moments that we are bonding, we are all together around the fireplace, playing cards, having tea, telling stories. So this day is going to be cold. Last night's going to be cold, but we are going to spend it in the best possible company. So we are going to be all together. And finally, the big day, day 12, arrives. This day, get ready for waking up in the middle of the night, have breakfast, and leave for sunrise. For this day, we really like to recommend not having a proper breakfast as every morning. So if, for example, let's say on these last days, you have been having toast with eggs or omelette, and tea or coffee in the morning. Something that we like to, or we prefer personally, and we like to recommend you all to have this morning, is have a big pot of tea, first of all, so it will keep you hydrated, and then a warm noodle soup. So actually this will give you enough calories and it will double hydrate you. So it's actually a kind of a pro tip that we normally only share during the trips. But yeah, the day that we are going to cross the mountain pass is going to be around 16 kilometers. So we are going to need a lot of water in our bodies, and we are going to need a lot of calories because it's going to be a very cold and tough day. And then the trail towards the pass is basically this kind of corridor that goes up and down all the time, but mainly up. And it takes around 3 to 4 hours ish to be accomplished, depending on the speed of the group. Last November, we did it in like 3 hours and a half, more or less. And on the last part, before reaching the Larque Pass, we got all this sun coming through the nearest mountains, and just it is amazing because you are looking to the ground, you are feeling the cold on your face, on your feet, you're just looking at the snow, and then you start feeling this warm stuff on your back. You turn around, you have the sun just going up from behind the mountains, just hitting on the first layer of snow, just melting slowly everything. And all these heats start warming you is one of the best feelings possible. You're going to be hiking in this trail. You're going to have huge peaks on both sides of the trail, on both sides of this corridor that I was talking about. You're going to get this kind of feeling like they're witnessing your steps to the success, to summiting this mountain pass, let's say that way. So we will continue following the trail up and around the White Hills until then suddenly, boom, a bunch of colors and screams of success hit you straight in the face. So it's like you turn around and suddenly you see these flags and you start hugging everyone on your group, and everyone gets literally emotional. So if we have had bonding moments along the trip, probably the climax of this is directly here on the mountain pass. Here you feel more than ever tied to your colleagues, to the group, to the adventure partners, and a lot of feelings come out. You start laughing, people start crying, happy crying, of course, and there's a lot of different feelings. People that thought that they will never, ever do this, they just are completely stunned about achieving this climb to the top, and this humongous feeling of success fills you up completely. So after a very short celebration, because it's really cold up there, we start descending towards Bintang, that is the village where we are going to spend the night. This trail is actually super steep. So depending on the season, we might actually need to use some micro spikes, way more for going down rather than for going up. So it's a very steep trail, and we normally spec together around lunchtime. So we have plenty of time to rest late in the evening. And finally, the last 2 days, we descend towards Darapani in order to join the Annapurna Circuit. So first we go from Bintang to Tilite, and from Tilite, we start going down to Darapani. When you reach Tilite, normally you look back and you have this weird feeling because you see where we come from, you see all those humongous mountains, and you start feeling kind of like not sad, but in a good way, like I'm already missing this. Then you keep hiking down, you get the first views of the Lamjung Himal, the first huge mountain on the way to the Annapurna mountain range. It's actually like, well, this is not over at all. And we start from Tilite, this kind of gentle descent through fir trees and rhododendron forest again. And finally, we hike gently downstream, very close to the river, towards the village of Darapani. But yeah, once they're in Darapani, we will not overnight here. We will take a jeep. So we normally get to Darapani around lunchtime-ish, and we get a jeep that we will drive us back to Besisahar. So actually, on our drive back, we are going to see a lot of people hiking towards us. And those people are the hikers that are on their way to the Annapurna Circuit Trail. So yeah, you will be doing actually the part of the Annapurna Circuit Trail, the beginning of the Annapurna Circuit Trail. But yeah, this would be it. So once back in Kathmandu, we will have our famous farewell dinner with the guides, with the whole group, and we will have a couple of last toasts. You never have just a couple. You always have like another toast for the guides, another toast for the group, another toast for Craig, another toast for Karen. Then the adventure will be over, and then you will head back on day 16 to your home country. Basically, how do we do it? How does the background of this trip look like? As I mentioned before, for leaving Kathmandu and coming back, we use this the private passenger vehicle for the whole group. And then once we reach Soticola, we will switch to the few jeeps that we will take us to Machacola, and we will use the same kind of vehicles for going back to Kathmandu. So on the end of the trip, we go from Darapani all the way to Besisahar on a jeep, and from Besisahar back to Kathmandu on the van. During our time in Kathmandu, we will stay in the hotel. It's called Kathmandu Guest House, one of the ancient hotels in Kathmandu, and it's actually one of the definitely best ones. While during the hike, we are going to be staying in the local tea houses. That would be this one that we can see here on the picture. We are going to use double rooms or 3 people rooms in some cases, but normally the most common thing is to use the double rooms unless there's definitely no availability. But the good thing about Manaslu is that there are not too many people in here, no other hikers. What we can expect to get in these local tea houses, we can expect to have basic services. So the region, as I said before, is not well connected due to the lack of roads, but at the same time, we have what we like to call this luxury of the essential things. We have a bed, we have good food, we have a toilet, and we have amazing views and incredible hosts. So the tea houses, these images that you can see here, these houses are the houses of the same villagers that have rebuilt or their places, or they have added some new rooms to their places in order to be able to host hikers and travelers. They might actually be basic, but they are truly amazing accommodations. Every morning and night, we will have breakfast and dinner in the dining room. That would be this one. And normally they are shared between all the guests. And in some places, we will be just ourselves. Some of the tea houses are pretty small. All right. And are the tea houses actually heated? Yes, indeed they are. Some of them, they are heated using logs. Some of them are heated using dry materials. But even though we have heated tea houses, this heating or stove is located just in the middle of the common room where we will have dinner and breakfast, meaning that the rooms are not heated. For that reason, you actually need a very, very good sleeping bag. Just to give you an overview of this, I've slept over 5,000 meters with my sleeping bag, snowing outside. And it's a sleeping bag that it has been purchased in Kathmandu. So it's actually from Nepal, from a Nepali brand. I've slept like a baby. And I haven't even needed to use like a puffy jacket or anything like that inside the sleeping bag. So you have the proper gear, if you have the proper equipment, you should be good. Some people actually prefer to bring the sleeping bag from home. That's also good, but some people also prefer to buy them in Kathmandu on arrival. Actually, we both use, Monica and I, we use this brand that is called Raiko, that it's a Nepali brand. It's mainly used for expeditions. They are not that expensive, and you can buy a very good, very, very good sleeping bag in a store near the hotel where we stay in Kathmandu. We always have the second day of the trip, as we mentioned at the beginning of the talk. If you need, actually, we can take you to this place to purchase the sleeping bag. Nepali people in these regions are famous for their cuisine, this kind of 5-star cuisine. They can prepare anything from scratch with vegetables growing in their backyard or directly from what is grown in the village. All meals, coffee and tea are included while we are hiking. You do not need to worry about bringing extra money for meals at all. However, during the stay in Kathmandu, only the breakfast is included, the welcome dinner. So actually the last dinner in Kathmandu and the meal during the day where we are visiting the heritage sites are not included. But it's also very important to mention this. Even though they can cook almost anything, if you have any dietary requirements different to vegetarian menus, first, you need to tell us before coming to the trip. That's one of the most important things. And secondly, it actually might be difficult and rare to find options. For example, people that they want to have gluten-free meals. In some places, it's going to be easy, but in some places, it might be a bit more difficult. But normally, you can find alternatives like rice. And since we are in the mountains and we tend not to eat any kind of meat or fish, we tend to stay almost the whole group completely vegetarian. And we, from time to time, we eat some cheese. We also tend to eat rice, pasta, and legumes, along with a lot and lots of vegetables. And if you dare, that this is something that not everyone dares, but I always like to offer, you can try some specialities like champa, that is a very, very thick porridge that you can have for breakfast. And then I can guarantee you that you will be completely full for the whole day. You can try rakshi on the first stages. That is the local wine. You can have yak cheese, or even you can try the famous salty Tibetan butter tea. As I mentioned before, we are going to be very close to the Tibetan border. So the Tibetan tea that you can try there, it's truly, truly unique and truly authentic. And behind every single second of your adventure, from the first moment you reach out to 57 hours till the day you say goodbye to Kathmandu, there is a crew of people supervising, guiding, and managing every single part of this logistic process. And those are us. So for each trip, we normally have one of us, either me or Monica, and we are always joined by a local guide we have been working with for many, many years already. We do this way for two reasons, mainly for safety, and then because it's a restricted area. So as we are a large group and we are going to be hiking over 5,000 meters, the ratio guide-client needs to be 2 for this number. Normally, we are about 12 people in the group maximum, and 2-3 guides, depending on the group. We all train under similar standards of mountain guiding, either both of us and the Nepalese guides, and we take care of safety, and we take care of making sure that everything goes perfectly and super smooth during your trip. You will have guides, but you will not have porters. That's very important to understand, meaning that you will need to master this art of minimal backpacking. So your luggage should not weigh more than 8 to 10 kilos at all. So that would be around 22 pounds, as we said here on the picture. You will get this gear, okay, on your inbox once you have booked. So you will get a very long list of gear and with recommended and mandatory stuff that you need to bring. And then, apart from the gear, you will need also to bring a few medicines. All of these can be found in Kathmandu if you are not able to find it in your home country. But as I said before, don't worry, because in any case, we are going to just send you the whole gear list before coming to the trip, along with this medical supplies list. As you can see, we have some special medicines down here, including the chest infection, we have the headache medication, we have anti-altitude sickness, diarrhea pills. One of the most important, at least for me, is this one, Diamox, that is is a medication for anti-altitude sickness. A lot of people come to Nepal, and since the moment they step out from the plane, Kathmandu, they start having Diamox. Diamox dehydrates you. We only recommend, both me and Monica and the whole Nepali crew, we only recommend you to start having Diamox if you start having symptoms of the acute mountain sickness, okay? So most importantly, when you're out in the mountains, if you get AMS symptoms, you need to stop. You need to rest, and you need to keep yourself hydrated. You need to drink water and tea, water and tea, water and tea. If the symptoms actually persist, then you would need to descend. This is actually good because you're going to have a few guides with you to help you, because if you will have just one guide, then it will be a completely mess. But since we are 2-3 guides, we can be just one of us can be with you and taking care of you if needed. In any case, what is also very important to understand is that you cannot avoid having the acute mountain sickness, but you can prevent getting it. You can prevent it by following instructions of your guides, ascending gradually, doing it slowly, keeping yourself very hydrated, and eating light but high calorie diet, among other things like no smoking, no alcohol, no coffee. And also important to understand, it is okay to have altitude sickness. That's a very common thing that you can get up in the mountains, or even more when we are talking about this altitude. But it is more important to know how to prevent and to be able to keep your guides constantly updated about how you feel, which symptoms are you getting, if you're feeling better, if you're not feeling better. It is okay to have AMS, it's okay to have altitude sickness, but it is not okay to risk your life. In the end, altitude sickness does not care at all about how fit you are, about your age, about if you are just checking your heart rate all the time. I've seen very fit people that are used to run mountain marathons, and people on their late 30s, early 40s, they get altitude sickness because they are going too fast, because they are not drinking enough, or because they are simply not resting enough. This reviews from Craig, who came on a private tour last November with us and with his friends. Just to give you an idea, even though AMS does not care about how fit you need to be, the trail is challenging for several reasons. It is longer than Everest Base Camp. It is longer than Annapurna Circuit. It is much steeper, even though in Annapurna we reach 5,400 meters high, and in here we are just 300 meters below, even though the trail itself, it's way steeper. So you need to feel comfortable hiking in uneven terrain. You need to feel comfortable crossing rivers. You need to feel comfortable with suspension bridges. However, apart from that, it is not technical. So if you actually can walk each day for 6-7 hours with your backpack on, then you should be good to go. You will be able to train definitely before the trip. And actually, if you want to ask us like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, I'm thinking about doing that for training for my trip, you think is correct, we can give you some advices. And then during the trip, you will have plenty of time to get used to the altitude. So we are not just ascending up to 5,100 meters in one day. We are doing it in 10, well, in this case, in 9 different stages. So good physical health and overall positive attitude are truly good preconditions for coming and for having a successful trail. So inscriptions are already open for the trip on 57 Hours website. We are really looking forward to having you guys for an unforgettable adventure. Thank you very much, everyone. Well, waiting for you in Nepal.